Hey, it's Chris from the Chris Stefanic Show. We dive into how to live a more joyful life every day, the kind of life that God created you for. Check it out. All right, I just want to dive into a couple of things to help people, because we only have, gosh, I wish we had 3 hours on this. You could buy the book, by the way. You need to get the book, right, to help you unlock this. But we're going to give you a couple cheats, a couple keys for your reading of Lord of the Rings to help you discern these Catholic themes. Let's start at the start. The creation narrative of the Silmarillion, that if you're going to be a true Lord of the Rings nerd, you have to read the Silmarillion. Yeah.
So basically, it begins, the opening line of the Ainul and Dala, which is the creation story at the beginning of the Silmarillion. It's the Elvish Genesis. It begins with, in the beginning, so the same...
Sounds familiar.
Same words, the opening book of Genesis and the opening book of St. John's Gospel, in Principio, in the beginning, there was the One, capital O, uppercase O. So immediately, first few words, we know that the Middle-earth is created, and it's not an atheistic cosmos, it's not a polytheistic cosmos, it's a monotheistic cosmos with one God. And then we're told his name is Iluvata, the All-Father, the Father of all.
The All-Father.
Yeah, and then basically he presents to the archangelic beings, this is before any of us exist, before any physical cosmos exists, presents to the angelic beings the great music of the cosmos. So you have this understanding of the cosmos as the music of the spheres, this great work, God as the artist, as the poet, as the musician, as the composer. But then he says to the angels, he doesn't say hearken, he doesn't say listen, he says play. In other words, this is the great music, this is my divine will, this is providence, but you have free will. And then of course you have the mightiest of the angels, Melchor, whose name means Mighty One. Who doesn't want
exactly like Lucifer.
Exactly like Lucifer. So Lucifer is the light bearer, the brightest of the angels. Melchor is the Mighty One, the mightiest of the angels. When Lucifer falls from heaven, and in the book of Isaiah, how hast thou fallen, Lucifer, star of the morning, that he forfeits the name Lucifer, because he's no longer the light bearer, he's the prince of darkness, and he's now known as Satan, which is Hebrew for enemy or adversary. When Melchor falls, the Mighty One, he forfeits that name, he's now known as Morgoth, which is Elvish for enemy. So Tolkien is a linguist playing games here. It's the same person, right? Just playing different languages. This is the fall of Satan we're talking about here. So that basically evil enters the cosmos because of the satanic, demonic rebellion. And then that, of course, has its ramifications throughout human history and the history of Middle-earth.
I've interviewed an exorcist a few times, and the insights about how whenever the devil tries to go outside the plan of God, instead of just crushing him into oblivion and non-existence, God is so powerful that he includes anything the devil tries to do in his plan.
Yep.
And that's Melchor.
Yeah, it's exactly. In fact, God says to Melchor in the Silmarillion that Melchor has to understand that there's no theme, however violent or ugly or prideful.
No musical theme.
No musical theme coming into the great music. That the God will not weave back into the central theme in ways more beautiful beyond Melchor's imagining. So there's nothing evil that Satan can do that God will not turn into something more beautiful beyond Satan's own imagining.
It's almost a mystical level of insight that this guy had as an author into the nature of evil.
Yeah, he was a lifelong practicing Catholic. We need to remember that. Lifelong practicing devout Catholic who was a professor of philology at Oxford University. He was a smart man, but he knew the difference between cleverness and wisdom. He says in The Hobbit, that he says that the goblins, the orcs, make no beautiful things, but many clever ones, especially devices for killing large numbers of people at once, and weapons of mass destruction. Whoa. So he knows the difference between cleverness and wisdom, right, and holiness, and this plays itself out in his works.
Why is it that story, that allegory, maybe this is a rhetorical question. Why is it that gets truth into my soul more effectively than just someone here's the truth, here's the nature of evil? What is it? What's the magic of this?
The magic of it is actually the magic of the parable. Jesus Christ sanctifies storytelling because he teaches us most of his most powerful lessons through the telling of stories. Yeah. The prodigal son is a fictional narrative. The prodigal son never existed in history, nor did his father, nor did his brother, nor did the pigs, right? It's a fictional narrative. And yet the prodigal son is so powerful that we don't say, for 2,000 years, when everyone's ever heard that story or read that story, we don't say the prodigal son is like us. We say we are like the prodigal son. In other words, the prodigal son, even though he's a fictional character, is the archetype of which we are types. This is the power of story, and Christ himself sanctifies it by teaching us those lessons. And of course, what's the most powerful lesson he teaches us? by being in the story himself. So God's not some distant figure we have to understand through abstract concepts. He's someone who's concrete, incarnate, who comes down and shows us the divine in his person.
You know, one of the reasons, too, that this is so powerful, storytelling, and that things like good books like Lord of the Rings for your kids, the impact it has on their soul. When you recall an image from a story, all the lessons are like, they're all right there. They're present to your intellect.
Yes.
In a way that sequential communication of facts can't do it.
No, exactly.
You know?
And I think it's because we are in a story. You know, history is his story. All of us are homo viator. We're on a journey. Now, if our life is a journey, ultimately a pilgrimage to heaven, if our life's a journey, it's also a story, right? Because we start at the very beginning, at our own incarnation, our own conception. Then we have the in utero period, and then we have our life story. So we are all in a story. So of course we're going to understand reality in terms of story because we're part of that story.
Dude, wasn't that amazing? I don't want you to miss this great stuff. Go over to the subscribe button and bring all your friends. Have a praise and worship session around that subscribe button. Light a fire near it. Toast marshmallows and offer a marshmallow to the subscribe button. Whatever you have to do, you can even just click subscribe, and you'll never miss this great content again. Share it with everybody you know. We'll see you in the next video.